Texas football lost its first game in Big 12 play this past weekend. We'll find out if Tom Herman made the right move suspending 3 key players this weekend, and the AP preseason rankings are officially out for college basketball. All this and more on College Crossfire.
I guess we'll get into it. Always enthusiastic, unbelievable, hard-nosed.
All right, let me explain why Aaron Judge is getting it. You can boo me all you want.
I knew Texas was going to win, and then one of the Texas team was going to lose.
Hammy. I don't like the Hammy. Wait, you don't like this guy? All right, I'm done. This is all chaos. Welcome into College Crossfire Halloween edition. Thank you for being here with us tonight. I'm your host, Jonathan Polasek, as myself on a boat. We've got a lot to discuss, but before we do, let's meet our veteran panel. We've got first our returning champion, young prophet Breckenhager, Eric Goodman. How you doing?
Well, not great after Saturday's loss, but Texas is still in line to win the Big 12, and I'm still due for a haircut come December time.
Yeah, I think it's time. Don't you think so?
It's feeling like time, but the Lord works in mysterious ways. It'll happen when it happens.
That he does. Up next, we have the man himself, Kawhi Leonard. Steve?
I don't even know where you're sitting at. Yeah, I'm doing well. Thank you, Jonathan.
Woo! All right, Kawhi, thank you. And here we have Turner. Turner, what are you? Can you explain to everybody what you are?
I am not guilty. I mean Kevin.
Okay.
I am the leading recruiter, advertiser for Adidas, and I would like to not bribe you. I am just letting you know that Adidas really appreciates if you would give Kevin the win today. NC State, have you ever been to NC State?
I've not.
It's a great campus. You would love it. You would fit in perfectly there.
All right, I'll keep that in mind.
Just keep that in mind.
Thank you very much. Glad to have all of you on tonight. So
It's not a bribe.
Let's just jump right on in. The Texas Longhorns took on Oklahoma State this past weekend and were promptly handed their first loss in Big 12 play. The Cowboys jumped all over the Longhorns en route to 17 first-quarter points and then withstood a furious Texas comeback in the fourth quarter. Coming off a bye week, you'd think that Texas would be ready to go against a quality opponent, but instead they got off to another slow start. So what exactly went wrong for the Longhorns? Let's start with Eric.
Well, Jonathan, better question is what went right. I got to take some of the fault. Like a lot of the loss came because the defense just couldn't get a stop in crunch time when they needed to, and we got to take the fall for that. But like I said, Texas, they've never been, as long as I've been here in my 4 years, we've never been a team to go into Big 12 stadiums and beat a team on the road. That's just not something that Texas is very good at, and has proved it in 2 or 3 games this year. We couldn't go into Maryland and get a win, couldn't go into Stillwater, Oklahoma, and get a win there. Still got to go to Lubbock, Texas Tech. At least it's a little closer to home. But it was just a game where Texas didn't come out. We just didn't come out fighting. Had really no rhythm up front. We'll talk about maybe a reason why that is in the next question. But nothing went right to be perfectly honest.
Weak defense, no energy. It was a lot of things for this Texas team against a very, very good Oklahoma State team. Steve?
I was practicing jumpers during the game, but I did manage to catch some of it. And I could not believe that Texas's secondary just couldn't contain Tylan Wallace. Tylan Wallace, he's probably racking up another 40-yard catch as we speak. He had 220 yards, 10 catches, and 2 touchdowns against Texas. The secondary just couldn't contain Oklahoma State's offense. And Taylor Cornelius, he outplayed Sam Ehlinger, which is something that we haven't seen often this year, as opposing quarterbacks outplaying Sam Ehlinger. Ehlinger remained free of turnovers, which was huge for Texas, but he just didn't have one of his great days through the air and on the ground, which were capable of beating Oklahoma State, which had the whole city of Stillwater behind him. Passionate crowd, Saturday night primetime, and the Pokes got the win and the field storm.
Yeah, Sam, he played all right, but that was mainly in the second half. He was basically a non-factor in the first half, so that's a big reason why that Texas did lose that game. Turner?
I think a lot of it, I think Sam Ehlinger had a decent game. He had 4 touchdowns, 2 of them in the first half, and then helped lead Texas to like you said, a raging comeback. I think a lot of it came down to the coaching. Tom Herman didn't have this team ready. He really didn't have them ready. And then Mike Gundy just knew exactly what to do to beat the Todd Orlando defense. He took a page right out of Maryland's playbook with 2 back sets. 3 of the 5 touchdowns scored They had two back sets, jet sweep motions, freezes the linebackers a little bit. Gary Johnson has the speed to make up for that. Anthony Wheeler, not so much. And then, like Brecken foreshadowed too, we'll talk about some other issues in terms of the secondary that came across Texas. But at the end of the day, Texas just wasn't ready to play. That combined with a good game plan from Mike Gundy. And like you said, Oklahoma State has some athletes who can play. All those combined factors. And Texas made some bonehead plays in the worst possible times, whether that's a penalty or fielding a punt inside the 5-yard line. Just didn't seize control of the big moment.
Yeah, Texas they were just out-coached and pretty much outclassed. But, I'm going with Eric getting the points because literally nothing went right. Anything that could go wrong did, and it happened. And Texas lost. So, that's pretty much all there is to it. So, Eric, you're getting the point. And so while just about anything and everything went wrong for the Longhorns, part of Texas's issues can be attributed to having 3 key players being suspended. Wide receiver Lil Jordan Humphrey was suspended for the first offensive series, while starting cornerbacks Chris Boyd and Devontae Davis were suspended the entire first quarter for being late to team functions. So do you think that Tom Herman made the right move suspending these players, or was there a better way to punish these players without hurting the team? Let's start with Steve.
Yes, I am okay with college coaches teaching their players a lesson in accountability. These players cannot always show that they're above the team and break team roles and attend team functions late. These are supposed to be the leaders on the team, some of the starters. So I'm okay with, and I think a first quarter or a first few possessions, although I think first few possessions or first possession would be preferable, as Lincoln Riley did with Kyler Murray for the same infraction earlier this year. That would be preferable. But first quarter is about as much as you could push tardiness, I believe, on a player. And it's not like Texas's secondary really improved in the second quarter, and we saw them struggle for moments in the second half, so you can't put the entire blame of the game on the fact that just a couple players were suspended for a small portion of the contest.
You're absolutely right. Oklahoma State still pretty much did whatever they wanted on offense, even with Chris Boyd or Devontae Davis and replacing those freshmen that were that started the game. So, how much of an impact did they really have? That remains to be seen. Turner?
Yeah, I agree with Kawhi here. You have to have some sort of respect and some sort of the team is bigger than you aspect in a good, strong football team. And I think suspending them from the first quarter of the game was perfectly fine. And also, we don't know the intensity, how often they were late, how late they were. But I think if you can't punish these kids with physical like gassers or anything, these guys are world-class athletes. That's not going to make them learn. And Tom Herman is trying to teach these kids. These are still college-age kids. He's trying to instill integrity and character in these kids. And the only way to really get through to kids like that is making them feel like they let the team down, and they did. It could have been a huge game changer with them the full quarter. Like Steve said, they didn't do really well when they did come in, but who knows if they would have known that they were going to play and for the whole game, they would have prepared better. But I think the seriousness of the punishment was fitting.
Yeah, I think maybe if you have those cornerbacks in, maybe Tylan Wallace doesn't go off the way that he does, and maybe he's relatively quiet. Who knows? Eric?
I'm going to disagree with these guys because, this is well before this week when Texas decided to do it. I hate the idea of suspending players for part of a game. If they really mess up, you want to suspend them a whole game or multiple games, that's fine. They will learn their lesson sitting on the bench in street clothes. But for one game, for a quarter of a game, there are only 2 possible outcomes. Either A, they're suspended, the team goes down, they come back in the game in the second quarter, play really well, and the team wins, and then what lesson did they really learn? They're just going to be treated like the stars that were the reason they won the game. Or, you keep them out, Texas loses as they did. Sure, those players probably did learn their lesson, but at what expense? Texas lost the game, and we know from the Charlie Strong era that, there's only a certain amount of limit we're going to put having good character people above winning games. That's just the reality of things. So, do I have a better way of punishing players? I can't think of one, especially in light of, Texas happened to be very close to this Maryland situation with DJ Jerkin pushing his players too hard. So, yeah, you're right. You can't run suicides maybe the way you would have, back in the day. But I don't like the idea of suspending players for a quarter. All it does is break up your rhythm. And I think, I agree, I think all 3 of those players who had poor games would have played better had they played the whole game.
Yeah, but the thing is, you have to remember that the infraction that it was, they were late to team functions. That was pretty much the only rule. So, I don't think that's necessarily worthy of a full game suspension.
I said this earlier on. If you were 50 minutes late to class and you weren't able to take the first 10 questions of the exam, does that make any sense? Not to me.
Well, that's a good point, but I'm going with Turner. I think that Coach Herman, these players, they're still young men, they're young adults, they're still learning, they're maturing, and he needs them to understand that they can't be any bigger than the rest of their teammates. There are going to be punishments if you don't follow team rules, and so I think it's just that simple. So you know what? Over the past few years, Texas football has been pretty much middle of the pack. Now with Tom Herman in charge, Texas has obviously improved, but they still have a tendency to play up and down to their competition. We've seen in this season that Texas lost to Maryland and scraped by Tulsa while thumping Oklahoma before their furious rally. So do you really trust this team to beat the teams that it should? Or what do you think, Turner?
You know, this is going to be my last straw. I've been optimistic all year with Texas, and this I'm being optimistic one more time. I'm going to say yes. Maybe they learned something this time. I've said that way too many times over the past few years. Hopefully, I don't have to eat my own words. But Texas, whenever we mentioned it, they come off a bye week. You know, you should be ready when you come off a bye week. The game against Maryland, they didn't play football the week before, and both times they just didn't come to play. And you don't have another bye week for the rest of the year, so maybe that has to do with it. They're in the rhythm of playing games. But I'm a little bit optimistic. I think upcoming for the rest of the year, you can trust them. But I mean, they're not going to be in the top 10 for the rest of the year. They bought into their own hype a little bit. Maybe they have to fight tooth and nail, and that's what they're good at. So last chance, I trust them for now.
Yeah,
Texas,
Texas,
it hurts to say that, but
they've been a scrappy team all year, but I'm not sure if they're really ready. I don't think they've really taken that next step, Eric.
Well, here's the thing about Texas. They can beat any team in the country if they play them at Darrell K. Royal Memorial Stadium. With Texas fans, I do not think Texas will lose a game at DKR. Certainly not this year, potentially not for a few years, because the environment created there is just too strong. They play too well in that arena. And also at the Cotton Bowl and on a neutral site, Texas has a much better chance. We've seen them, defeat a strong Oklahoma team. But Texas just can't go on the road, and for whatever reason, when they go on the road into these hostile environments, they play, they're 1-3. Even the one win against Kansas State was not at all convincing. So I don't trust them at playing any team, good or bad, on the road.
Yeah, Texas, they go on the road and they're a completely different team. They're away from the confines, the loud environment that's cheering them on. Now they've got people booing them all over when they're on the road. Steve?
You said Texas playing the teams they should beat. You look at the schedule, what teams should they beat? We have West Virginia, then there's going to be Texas Tech, Kansas, and Iowa State. I only see one should-beat game on there, and that would be the Kansas Jayhawks. Now, West Virginia is ranked above Texas. They have a dominant offense. They're really good. And then there's Iowa State and Texas Tech, who are both on the rise this year, both with great quarterbacks and great offenses. I think Texas's resume got diminished a lot by the failures of TCU and USC this season. Those were strong wins, morale-boosting wins at the time, but TCU's 3-5 with a loss to Kansas. USC's a middling 4-4. If you take out that Oklahoma game, what is this Texas team? Are Iowa State, West Virginia, and Texas Tech teams that Texas should beat? No, they're on the same par.
Yeah, I have to agree with you, Steve. I think because the way you look at USC now, the way you look at TCU, they are not the teams that we thought they were going to be coming into this season. We thought that they were going to be top 15 teams, top 10 teams coming into the country, and that when Texas beat them, there was a lot of hype behind them. Texas was really on a roll, but now you've got West Virginia, Iowa State, and Texas Tech who are actually really, really good this year. I don't know if Texas can beat them, so you know what? I'm giving you the point, Steve. And so that's going to take us to break. When we return, we're talking college football playoff rankings and who's to blame for the Dodgers World Series loss. Stick around. Welcome back to College Crossfire. Let's remind everybody at home of the score. We got ones across the board. It's all tied up. Still anybody's game. So the first college football playoff rankings are out. The usual suspects are up there at the top with Alabama and Clemson going 1 and 2. LSU somewhat surprisingly jumped to Notre Dame to be number 3. And then Washington State and Kentucky are both in the top 10. With the official rankings now out, did the committee get it right this week? Let's start with Eric.
Top 4 I don't have a problem with, but here's the thing. You guys don't want to hear this from me. You want to hear from Steve Helwick about how University of Central Florida has been snubbed this whole time. So Steve, what do you think?
All right, Steve, go ahead.
Bold move.
Okay,
Bold move,
the
Cotton.
committee just doesn't get it. The group of 5 is 3-1 against the Power 5 in these New Year's Six bowls. And they've been lower ranked every time. UCF, Boise State, and Houston have all got wins on the biggest stage. UCF now wins 20 in a row. And I thought the question was, can UCF beat good teams? Yeah, they prove it time and time again. When they beat Auburn, when they absolutely blast mid-tier Power 5 teams like Maryland last year, Pitt this year, a Pitt team that should have beaten Notre Dame. And they just don't get it. So they put UCF at 12 for extra insurance because they don't want them to somehow climb into that top 4 when everyone else loses. And what other insurance do they do? Not even considering Cincinnati and South Florida, 2 one-loss teams. Not ranking Houston, Houston was UCF's likely American Conference Championship game opponent, and they're number 17 in the AP poll. That would look like a great win, beating a number 17 team in the nation. Playoff says, we prefer Fresno State, a team that lost to Minnesota, is our group of 5 team you'll throw in the
Throw the
polls.
boat.
It just doesn't make sense. They're so inconsistent with the rankings. The rankings are built to help out teams like Alabama. I mean, look how high A&M's ranked right now, at 19 or whatever, not to 19 or 20. And it's built against teams like UCF trying to make a run at the playoff, and they're well-deserving, 20 in a row. That's all I can say.
There's a lot of emotion coming out of Kawhi Leonard right there, but you know what? Obviously, it's a touchy subject. It's a touchy subject. Thank you. Moving on to Turner.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with him. People always talk about this playoff system's whack, but the committee is what's whack. The fact that they have LSU over Notre Dame says, oh, well, we prefer strength of schedule or the eye test to being undefeated, but then they have Clemson over LSU when LSU's played much harder schedule. I think they pass the eye test better than Clemson does, and they're over them because they're undefeated. It's like, which one's more important? Which one are they going to go with? So if you're going to do undefeated, you have to have Bama, Clemson, Notre Dame, and UCF. And if you're going to do the eye test, you need Bama, LSU, Michigan, and I don't know, like OU or somebody like that. It's just inconsistent, and the committee is just all over the place.
Yeah, I just think we just don't know exactly what the committee's going to do. But I'm going with Steve. That was an
that's
excellent
fair.
tirade. But it's fitting. The committee hasn't gotten. I don't think they've gotten it right. They're not giving the respect to that UCF deserves. It's just the committee. They need to change something up in order to get it right.
Stay woke, Steve.
Moving on to the World Series. It's come to an end, and the Boston Red Sox are world champions once again. The Red Sox easily dispatched the Los Angeles Dodgers in 5 games, and it's the 2nd consecutive World Series loss for manager Dave Roberts and the Dodgers. But the question is, does Dave Roberts deserve the blame for this World Series loss? Start with Steve.
I'm going to have to say no. Dave Roberts does not deserve blame for the Boston Red Sox just solely being a better team. This is a 108-win team that had to go through the Yankees and Astros to make the World Series, while the Dodgers had to go through much easier NL teams. And also, the Red Sox are just stacked at hitting and even better at pitching. While the Dodgers mainly just have Clayton Kershaw, the Red Sox have one of the deepest bullpens in all of the MLB. And they were getting a lot of help from hitting from Mookie Betts, an MVP candidate. And then Steve Pearce he hit 3 home runs in the World Series, did really well. The Red Sox are just the better team. And that's what is expected when a stacked, top-heavy AL is going against an NL that was all out of sorts this year, which had a lot of parity at the top.
I mean, you're absolutely right. The Red Sox are just the more complete team. The starting pitching, the lineup 1 through 9, Jackie Bradley Jr., we saw in the ALCS how he single-handedly demolished the Astros, and then their bullpen, which had gotten a little bit of criticism towards the end of the regular season, that really came on in the postseason. Turner?
Yeah, I'm going to have to say no. Roberts, he's a good manager. He's taken them to 2 back-to-back World Series. I don't know what more you want from him other than winning one against a very good Boston Red Sox team. Yeah, you're right, Sean. But I think people are going to cite him taking out Rich Hill in Game 4 with a chance to tie up the series. But in the post-series conference, press conference, he talked about how Rich Hill told him, "You need to keep an eye on me and take me batter to batter." And first, that's not very. You don't have very much confidence in your pitcher after he tells you that in the middle of the game. Mm-hmm. And then he walks a guy and he takes him out. And that's exactly what the pitcher told him to do. And you saw him manage some good games leading up to the World Series, like against the Brewers. Those were some crazy long games with going to the bullpen all the time. So he's a good manager, and I don't think you can blame him for losing to this stacked Boston Red Sox team.
Yeah, the Dodgers, they started off very slow this regular season, came all the way back, and were able to not only, 1, make the playoffs in a competitive NL West, but they made it all the way back to the World Series once again. That's not an easy thing for any team to do, to just go to back-to-back World Series like they did. Now, should he have won one? Maybe, but he didn't, and it happens. Yeah. Eric?
So did Robert start Clayton Kershaw in 2 games? Yeah, okay. So he made had he not done that, he's to blame. Exactly. But he did do that. Kershaw couldn't pull it out. The Red Sox were the best team in baseball, and the Dodgers were not the second best team in baseball. They were well behind the Yankees and the Astros, who the Red Sox beat on the way to a championship. So this was never going to be a contest. I mean, the Dodgers can't even feel too upset that they lost the World Series. I mean, sure, you're bummed because you were so close, but the best team in baseball was the Red Sox all year. So, to put any blame on Roberts, unfair.
I agree. It's completely unfair, and I'm going with Eric. You're getting the point because they just ran into the buzzsaw that was the Boston Red Sox. They played tougher competition all year long, and, I mean, Dave Roberts did everything that he could. He started his best pitcher twice, and he just laid an egg. It happens. So, Eric, you're getting the point. Moving on to the AP preseason poll. It's officially out for men's college basketball. Kansas is leading the charge in first place, followed by Kentucky, Gonzaga, Duke, and Virginia. The defending champion Villanova Wildcats will start the season ranked all the way down at 9th. But overall, what surprises you the most about these rankings? Start with Turner.
Well, the Kansas Jayhawks are going to be on top for a specific reason that, not to be said, they're a very good team, rock chalk. But I think the biggest surprise for me was Villanova at number 9. This is the defending national champion. Sure, you lose your big 3 with DiVincenzo, however you say his name, Bridges, and Brunson. But Jay Wright is an incredible coach. People want him in the NBA. And he's shown that he can handle some roster turnover. 2 years ago, they won the national championship. And now, last year, I don't know if people remember this, but that was one of the most dominant March Madness runs ever. Just destroyed every team they played, won the national championship. And now they're at number 9, and teams like Nevada and Tennessee are above them. That's out of the question. That's crazy.
Yeah, they're just not getting the respect that you think a defending champion should be getting.
Number 9?
I mean, I don't understand it, but that's what it is right now.
KU makes sense though, Rock Chalk.
We'll go on to Eric.
Well, so Jonathan, it's easy to look at the rankings, 1 through 25, and find some fault there. But let's go deeper than that. Let's look at first place votes. Tennessee got a first place vote. The University of Tennessee, and this is not women's basketball, this is men's basketball. So that's 1. I would love to know who made that vote and where in Rocky Top their nice house is. And then beyond that, we'll go from the first place votes to the others receiving votes category, where Loyola of Chicago, 3 votes short from starting the season off in the top 25. And come on, you can't do Sister Jean like that. Get Loyola Chicago in the top 25. A Final Four team last year.
Well, I think it's very clear that all of these rankings, regardless of the sport, they're just getting it wrong left and right. Steve?
Jonathan, I'm really glad to talk about basketball because I am a fun guy and I love the game of basketball. But I do find some faults in the basketball AP poll, and I think a lot of it has to come with SEC teams. Eric mentioned Tennessee is a first place vote and ranked at number 6 in the nation. I don't see where Tennessee showed last year with even their returning players that they deserve to be that high. I mean, they lost to Loyola in the second round there. And also, LSU and Mississippi State, 2 teams that missed the tournament last year, ranked in the SEC. Did Paul Feinbaum make this poll? Because I'm seeing way too much SEC in this poll.
In basketball.
Yeah, in basketball.
Maybe a little SEC. Maybe a little bit of SEC bias, but I'm going with Turner. I think they're just the Villanova Wildcats. They're just not getting enough respect as the defending national champions. That just can't happen. It just can't happen. I'm sorry. Great debate, guys. That's it for now. We've got rapid fire up next. Stick around. Welcome back to College Crossfire. It's time for rapid fire, but let's remind everybody of the score. We've got Eric with 2. Wherever Kawhi went, I think he was taking a rest. Oh, here he goes. Here he
I
comes.
did 2 blocks in a row. Coach said my camp said I needed to return from injury management.
I mean, this restriction, I get it. I understand. And Turner with 2. It's all tied up, so it's still anybody's game. And in rapid fire, each question is worth 2 points, and you can jump in at any time. So while this most recent World Series wasn't the most competitive World Series that we've seen in recent memory, it did provide us with the longest World Series game ever in terms of time at 7 hours and 20 minutes and innings with 18. In an 18-inning game, as a player, what would you do to keep yourself entertained?
So are we do we have to go out there every inning, or are we in the bullpen where you're just chilling for 18
You're a
innings?
player, regardless of whether or not you're playing at the time.
Interesting.
What would you keep to stay entertained? It's a long game. 2 games worth.
I don't know, maybe switch jerseys with one of my friends and play their position, just to see if anybody notices. Just switch jerseys while you're in the dugout. Maybe switch spots in the batting lineup. Try and mix things up, and see if anybody notices. Take bets, see if anybody notices in the stands or on the TV.
Maybe not in a game of the magnitude of the World Series.
Oh yeah,
any other game,
yeah,
okay, I can see that.
exactly.
I can see that.
Like a June game.
Yeah. Eric, Steve?
I'm finding a way to get a little TV out in the dugout and just play some Fortnite in there. I mean, it's how America kills time these days, you know.
That's
play
true.
a little,
America's
run some
pastime.
squads while the, well, you know, if I'm, 8th in the order coming up, I can run some squads.
Yeah, you
Come
got
on.
plenty of time. You got plenty of time. Steve?
The game was in LA, so I love LA. It's a great place. I'm going to play there next year. I love Toronto, but I'm going to probably leave in the middle of the game and pick up In-N-Out for Joe Buck and everyone in the stadium, just because In-N-Out's big in LA and everyone gets hungry over 18 innings.
You have to remember, they got food in the stadium, though, Steve.
Yeah, it's not close to In-N-Out because LA's great and everything about LA is fantastic.
You know what? I'm sorry, but you're not getting the point. I'm going with Eric. We're going to squat up, play some Fortnite, and just, we got to kill some time. I mean, 7-hour game? Come on now. That's just a little too much. Speaking of entertainment, former Longhorn punter Michael Dixon has been just that for the Seattle Seahawks. Not only has he been one of the better punters in the NFL this year, but he's also provided us with big-time plays that include a drop-kicked kickoff and running for a first down on a fake punt from his own goal line. He's shown that he's capable of just about anything, so just what else can he do?
Well, he can tweet.
He can
we know
tweet.
that. Can't get into exactly
We
why.
ain't going to quote him. We're not going to quote him, but
You can look it up. What can't he do?
No,
what else can
Oh,
he
what
do?
else can he do?
This man, he's shown that he has many talents, obviously.
Well, I mean, eventually, football is, going to die out. I mean, there's no secret. I mean, come on. Like, I know it. Brecken Hager knows it. Football is going somewhere. So Michael Dixon can lead us into the charge of American rugby. And that's where the future is.
All right, we can go into some rugby, maybe a little bit of rugby. I don't know. We'll see. I don't know how America will take that. We'll see. Steve, Turner?
Well, there's some legends out there that I've heard about Michael Dixon. I heard he can believe it's not butter. He can eat just one Lay's potato chip. One time, Michael Dixon was walking and a rattlesnake bit him on the leg. And after 3 days of excruciating pain, the rattlesnake died. Crazy. Michael Dixon is older than his father, and he was built in a log cabin that he built with his bare hands. His tears can cure diseases. He can do anything.
Well, I mean, you said it. He can do just about anything. Steve, what you got?
Nothing I say can compare to that answer, but I think I could beat Michael Dixon in a game of basketball, so he can't play basketball.
I would probably agree with that, but I'm going to go with Turner getting the 2 points. I mean, he can do literally anything. So, Turner, you're getting the 2 points. Moving on to the final rapid fire of the night. And as we all know, today is Halloween. Everybody's dressed up in costumes, whether they be funny or scary. We also know that some mascots are a little bit scarier than others, or at least creepier. But who exactly is the scariest mascot in all of sports?
That baby was horrifying. I don't know where.
I don't know what the hell is scary.
Is that the New Orleans Pelicans?
I
don't know.
think so, but I agree that baby literally gives me nightmares.
Yeah. Man.
scariest?
Steve, Turner?
I don't really get scared of things because I don't really have emotions, but I would have to say Purdue Pete. Have you ever seen Purdue Pete before?
I've not.
Plastic face, dead, soulless eyes, and he carries a mallet with him.
Oh, that's
if
kinda
I ran into that thing in a dark alley at 2 a.m., I don't even know what I want to do with myself. It is creepy.
You sure you wouldn't want to play basketball with him?
I probably would want to play basketball with him if I wasn't injured right now.
All right, Turner?
Well, speaking of basketball, I mean, it's not scary to me, but I've seen a lot of kids crying when the Mavs man shows up. You know the Mavs man? He's like, his head is the basketball and is like looks like a basketball. He's all buff and has sunglasses. I've seen multiple kids cry whenever that thing walks up to him. He's just he's not human. This looks like a basketball guy. But I don't think he's scary. Yeah, you're a basketball guy, right, Kawhi? He doesn't look scary to me, but I've seen a lot of kids crying whenever that dude walks up to him. So.
Yeah, a lot of kids crying, a lot of babies, but I'm going with the scariest baby I've ever seen. Eric, you're getting the 2 points, and you're getting the win. I mean, that thing is absolutely freaky. I mean, do we have time for FaceTime for Eric?
Not now.
Okay, we don't have time for FaceTime here, but stick around with us on Facebook Live to catch the young prophet, Eric Goodman's FaceTime. So that's all the time we have for tonight. Congratulations to our winner, Eric Goodman. Make sure to tune in on Mondays at 9:30 for College Press Box to catch up on the latest sports news on the 40 Acres. And tune in with us next Wednesday at 9 o'clock for more College Crossfire. Don't forget to follow at TSTV Sports on social media. And for all the panelists and everyone in studio and master control, I'm Jonathan Polasek. Have a wonderful evening.